Hello and welcome everybody to According to Andrew number 54. Why is The Hobbit a classic? So I recently finished The Hobbit, probably I don't know, less than a month ago, for the second time, and it's just it's such a good book, and I kind of want to talk about why it's a great book, even though I don't know, it's one of those that's seen as a classic, right? So I want to kind of discuss the idea of like what is a classic, why are certain things considered classics, and why this should be considered a classic. Uh, and some of that stuff. And I think it's just really it's such a great book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It it seems like when you recommend like some of the greatest books of all time, it almost seems like do I even need to recommend this book kind of thing. Um but it took me a long time to get around to reading it. The only reason I did read this book is I was like, "Oh, I want to read this." And then my high school, it was my senior year in high school, and it was like literally days before graduation, and I was in the library and they had all these stacks of books, and I noticed The Hobbit was on there, and it had like a discard on there, and they were just gonna throw it away. And so I was like, so you guys are just gonna throw this in the trash or whatever? And they're like, yeah. So if you want it, you can just take it. And that's how I ended up with a copy of the Hobbit, and I think it's pretty old. I think it's from like the 70s or something. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this one's copyright like 1970s. So it's been around a while. It's got some tape on it to keep it together. But it's still good. It's still classic, and it's a what is it? Soft cover. So all the wear and stuff like that just adds character. But it's a super easy read. It's a really great read, and it's really like relatable to one's life. Uh, it's the idea of this guy. He's comfortable. He's in his spot. He doesn't want to leave, and he's compelled to leave because things have kind of gripped him and followed him, and uh, and really brought him to go on a journey. And it's really great in that regard. And uh, it's there's nothing like I love how it's just like it's a classic tale of we're gonna go on a journey. We're gonna do this thing. Like here's this group of men that are gonna go out. We have this quest. We're gonna conquer the quest. No nonsense. That's what we're gonna do. There's no in the movie they had this like dumb side like romance plot and other crap like that. And the thing that's great about the book is it's none of that. It's pure. We're going on an adventure. We're doing our thing. Let's see what happens. And you don't get that anymore. There always has to be like this extra layer or some other crap. There has to be some intrigue. You can't just have like a no nonsense uh adventure story anymore. And I'm not saying you can't, but and I'm not probably read enough to know what ones are out there in the fantasy industry that are more Tolkien-esque, where it's just like we're going on an adventure, buckle up, strap in, everybody, let's head out, we're doing this thing. And in that regard, it's really refreshing, right? There's even in like Lord of the Rings, which I would need to get around to reading. Um, there's like this higher call. There's this great uh, thing that's going on, and you know Bilbo's call to adventure is something simple. It's like, look, we have 13 people in this group, and 13 is an unlucky number. So Bilbo, you're in because we need a 14th. That's the whole reason he goes, right? And like it's a really relatable kind of feeling, right? Because most of our calls to adventure aren't some crazy thing. There isn't some well, I guess in this regard there's a dragon to slay and all that stuff. So in that regard it's epic and stuff like that. But um the things that compel us and stuff like that to go uh, and go on our adventure are simple little everyday things, right? Uh, we don't want to wear a mask in public or various things like that, and so you got to figure out how to work around in outside that system or inside that system, um, and that's like our little adventure that we go on, uh, and it's not this grand thing uh, to kind of get us to compel us to go. And it's also kind of nice because you always feel like I know in my personal life it's like, oh, I really need to go on my adventure, or I need to if I want to make the things happen in my life or really start planning for the future instead of just kind of sitting around and hoping things happen around me. I need to actually do something. And And in that regard, Bilbo is a very relatable character because it's like, well, I know I need to go do something, but like, you're constantly fighting your comforts and stuff like that, and that's the Hobbit's whole thing, right? Uh, you have breakfast. They have their schedule. They like they're simple people, but they have their schedule. They have their things that they really like, and you don't want to they don't want to break out of those creature comforts, right? They have their breakfast, their second breakfast, their things like that, and it's nice to kind of have this character that is so they're not a hardened adventurer like the rest of the crew, and even the rest of the crew has their ups and downs. They complain they've walked too much. They've had this issue or that issue. Um, but it's it's still you get through it, and the adventure is like long and grand, and this is more of a TV thing, but like they make these adventures on the not the screen, but the well, yeah, on the screen, on the movie screen. uh don't seem like they take that long. It's things happen pretty rapidly, and it's like boom, boom, boom. There's action constantly. Stuff's happening all over the place all the time. And it's nice to have something that's a little bit more slower pace, right? You have some action. Then they end up staying at some place for 3 months. And it also kind of covers some of these other issues where, maybe you get like kind of a MacGuffin, really lucky thing, where it's like, oh, you happen to be here on this particular night that you need to be here. But they stayed there for 3 months or something like that. So it's like, okay, sure, you got like lucky one and a quarter kind of thing. But like, because they stayed there for so long, um, it made it so that it wasn't as weird or as big of a deal. Um, so that was kind of nice. But yeah, it's a classic. So I want to define classic and why I think it's a classic. So I just looked this up on Google. So it has two definitions for its adjective. So judged over a period of time to be of the highest quality and outstanding of its kind. And then the second one is remarkably and intrinsically typical. And I think that really hits this book home, and a lot of Tolkien's writings uh, hits this home really well. In his writing style is very like how he writes and stuff like that. You can just tell it's well written when reading it, um, and it's really nice to kind of get that, and all the little things that he does to kind of bring you in. There's there's a reason so many people have built their writing style and how they view the world and stuff like that off of Tolkien's stuff, and it's because it the way it is done and the way it was so well crafted is a model for success, and you can use kind of the um, some of the aspects that he did, and instruct yourself in how to make something great, and but that can still be unique to your story that you want to tell. And then obviously it has lasted the test of time. It's only 100 years old, so when you compare it to like Greek tragedies and stuff like that, it doesn't last that long. But I don't know. Like if you think about how those stories are told, I think these books have the chance. The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings have the chance to last throughout a long, long history, as long as Western civilization stays afloat. Um, because people of other civilizations have their own classics and stuff like that, so they might not be interested in these. But if Western civilization goes down, you're going to lose the Greek and Greek uh, classics and stuff like that as well, and um, not just the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, which would, their own right, be a travesty. So that's great, and like I said, the writing's like so good. It's just I don't, it's the the way he like kind of outlines stuff. Like here's a great one because I don't know about you, but uh, if I automatically corrected this when I heard the song in the movie of where is it here? Here we go. Um, but in the movie, they sing about the Misty Mountains and far over the misty mountains cold to dungeons deep and caverns old we must away ere break of day to find our long forgotten gold. And so I think that really helps, like just that little bit helps summarize how these dwarves are, right? So, and really sets the stage and tone of what a dwarf is, right? So they lost their home, their thing, and in my mind, whenever I heard this song before, I always replace gold with home, right? So the last line is to find our long forgotten gold, and to me, I listened to a lot of Owen Benjamin today on my drive that I had to do. So, uh, for me, like, where what is he? Money is debt, and family is wealth. So, in that regard, I kind of have that framework built into my head after he kind of repeats it so often, and so I just assumed it was home, right? Like gold equals home, wealth equals home, kind of thing. Um, and I don't know if they actually changed it in the movie because you can mishear things that happens. Um, but it's so instructive to like the the of what happens later in the show where they fall to like the dragon sickness, this greed, uh, but like the greed in their the envy was already in their hearts, right? Because it's set up that the why do they miss the Misty Mountains? It isn't because it's their homeland. It isn't because it's they want it to have the mountain again to uh, it isn't because of like hurt pride of that this was stolen by a dragon that and it's uh, our we were forced out of our home and we want to return to where we came from. It's no, the dragon took our gold, and gold is the most important thing above all else. So that's the only thing we care about. And this becomes a conflict later on in the book when basically everyone all of a sudden the dragon's dead and everybody wants their hands in the cookie jar. Sorry if that ruined it for anybody, but like, come on, the book's 100 years old, and you've probably heard the story at this point. Um, so yeah, so it's really nice and refreshing. Um, I haven't read too many books, but it's nice to not have like some random forced romance thing in a book or a story when it's obviously not necessary, right? It's 13 dwarves and a hobbit that are going on an adventure. Like, why would there be a forced romance in there? Um, so it's nice that uh, that's not present, and it's just they have this mission, they go to complete this mission, the mission gets complete, and everybody kind of goes their separate ways and gets back to what they're doing, and it takes a while, right? It's in that regard, it's nice because it doesn't feel like super rushed and pop like we're so used to instant gratification kind of stuff, and it's nice that something takes a little bit slower pace, and it's like it took a while to get to these places. We're walking a very far distance, and really kind of help it can't encapsulate that kind of thing. They end up in hardships. Those hardships aren't immediately fixed. It takes time to find a solution to some of their problems, um, and it really adds an extra layer and dimension to the overall story where it's not like you know they stumble into this problem, they're able, without even really thinking, they're able to fix their problem within 2 seconds. There's aspects of that, but it's the solution to those problems was somewhat set up earlier on, mainly with Bilbo and his ring. So it's obviously the classic. It's great. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. Definitely worth the money. And yeah, I give two thumbs up. There's no reason that it shouldn't be in your collection, and there's really no reason to read it because it's a nice. It's 300 pages of some of the nicest, quickest, easiest reading that you'll ever do. I read a chapter a night before I went to bed. There's only like 19 chapters. It'll take you less than a month to get it through if you only read one chapter a night. And I guarantee you, especially when you get towards the end there, those chapters are going to suck you in. You're going to be like, I should go to bed, but I want to just get one more chapter in. So, um, and I'm a slow reader. I read like, I don't know, I could read a chapter in like an hour maybe, and like I'm maybe a little bit faster than that. But you know, no matter what, well, it's not no matter what level, but I imagine if you can read, you should be able to read this book without too much trouble. There isn't overly flowery language or anything like that in there, in my opinion. It could be my perspective that I have a better vocabulary than I assume most people do, but I don't think that's true. I don't know. Anyway, that kind of sums up that. That's my ramblings on a book that everybody already knows about and is like a classic. So why am I trying to sell a classic? I don't know. I'm over. It's like the salesman trying to oversell a car. But thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for all your support and stuff like that. Like I said, this one's coming out a bit later, so thank you guys for being understanding with that. Do your thing. Do your likes, your comments, your subscribes. It's all helpful on the various apps. I'm on YouTube. I'm on BitChute. I'm on Odyssey. It so hit oh, and I'm on Podbean. So hit me up on any of those, and anywhere that you want to see me. Hit me something at Social Galactic, and I'll see if I can make it happen, or leave it a comment in one of these videos. Anyway, thank you guys all for listening, and have yourselves a good day. Goodbye.